Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is all right. Almost was a little late. I actually got contacted by Microsoft for my channel content. Nothing bad. They just wanted me to do a couple of changes on some of the videos on the way that I talk about it, but for the rest, they were okay. They found it interesting. And I do find it interesting that Microsoft knows who I am on YouTube. So kind of cool. So hello, everybody. It has nothing to do with this content. It has to do with the Windows content that I have on my channels, which was kind of interesting. They wanted me to add just a little disclaimer. So just funny. Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard. This is the Wednesday edition of the Shortwave show. And of course, we are here to entertain and have fun. Talking about shortwave radio, we got a certain number of questions that are interesting from a viewer. And we'll, of course, tune the bands, check out what's available, what's there. I think it's going to be cool to have all of this happening. Hope you guys are safe and that everything is all right in your neck of the woods. Let me just do a little change here. Pop-up chat. Here we go. And what else do we have? This is okay. So it was just kind of funny to see that I got a little email from Microsoft this afternoon. So this is okay. This is okay. And this is, yeah. Okay, so welcome aboard, everybody. Nice to have you here. And this looks good. This looks good. And this looks good. And here we are. And here we go. So this is a Wednesday edition of the live show. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are in the northeast part of North America. Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Yeah. A lot of people think I'm from some other country or from the US or whatever. Nope. From Canada. And we are here to talk about radio, shortwave radio, enjoy everything about radio, and hope that you will enjoy the show today. So really nice to have all of you here, and very nice to. It's kind of I've found it kind of interesting that, like I was saying earlier, that Microsoft actually contacted me regarding my YouTube channels on the subject of what is Windows Insider and Windows. Kind of funny. So hello, everyone, and hope that you enjoy our content as we talk about shortwave. We're tuning the bands, 20-meter band right now. I'm on 14205. There's a conversation. I was tuning the 20-meter band a little bit, see what stations are from different places. I heard Brazil and I heard Antigua in the last hour on the 20-meter band. There's quite a few signals there. And we're going to talk about the question there is about the 20-meter band. So hello, everyone. And I didn't check here. Do we have? Yes, we do have. So, yes, we have Elizabeth saying hello from Regina, Saskatchewan. Happy to be here tonight. And of course, I've got the questions from Martin. Martin, that is in Nebraska, USA, and that has questions about a few questions about propagation and stuff. He's not new to the hobby, but there's little things that he never really kind of grasped on and was wondering. So we're going to talk and answer those questions today. So welcome aboard, everyone, and nice to have all of you here, my friends. Remember that we have a wonderful chat room here, and that we talk about the what's happening, and we have questions, and we have newbies, and we have people, knowledgeable people. We have great conversations. It's a beautiful chat room. All you need is a Gmail account in order to be able to participate. And you know what? When all of this is over, there's another place where you guys can go, and it's the Facebook group. There's a wonderful Facebook group. And that Facebook group is, I'm going to post a link. It has the same name as this channel, official SWL channel. And here we go. And this is a wonderful group, official SWL channel on Facebook. We're getting close to 1,000 members. And this is a place where it continues. When the party is over here, it continues over there. Yep, pretty much, because that's the way it happens. We actually have our live, our entertaining over there with a lot of people posting what they're doing, what they're receiving, and everything. It's really, really cool to have everybody talk about radio. I'm just going to try to put myself a little without kicking the camera. So it's really pretty cool to have all of you on board as usual. And of course, what's nice is that it's nice to see the activity there, and people talking, and people having fun, and sharing all the information and what they're listening to and the radios they use. Everybody being happy, getting MLA 30s and XH datas and Texans, and it's really, really nice to see the enthusiasm of people there. A great bunch of people listening to the radio, and that are just there to have fun. And that's the fun part of the group. It's like here, very civilized, and we're here to have fun and entertain, and just we're a bunch of guys who love radio. And that's the basics of this. And we love radio, and we love sharing our, moment of radio listening, and of radio knowledge, and learning with other great people that are around the world. Okay. Bobby Burgess, WA5107SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. Crittenden Tuttle 4. Nice to have you here. KJ7NUX. Trond from Norway. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Nice to see that you're healing, my friend KJ7NUX. Stay safe. Shady Pyro 90. Nice to have you on board. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to have you here. Jason Francis. Nice to have you on board from Ottawa, Canada. James Bowers, nice to have you here from New Hampshire, KC1 ENJ, I believe. Yes, Echo November Juliet. James Farley, nice to have you on board. 10 and 11 meters app open today, 1 to 4 Eastern. Cool. Frank Ireland, nice to have you here from Tampa, Florida. Arthur's Autocrafter's Kitchen, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Rufus, nice to have you here on the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Her schedule is all over the place for the last 2 weeks. Hope everything's all right. Eyebrawler, nice to have you on board from Arkansas. Joe Brown, nice to have you on board from Southeast Michigan. Clark Justin, nice to have you here. KB9SJD in Southwest Wisconsin. David, no commercials. There's not a lot of commercials, I can tell you that, because since the beginning of June, the monetization has been quite really going down. So from what I see is that there's not a lot of ads, or the ads that are there are not very don't pay much. David KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. Augustin Bernard, nice to have you here. Augustin from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Jasmine, nice to have you here from Seattle. Dan V, nice to have you here from Ohio, and 8WJZ. Jason Francis from Ottawa, missed out on the live shows recently due to schedule changes resulting from COVID-19. Well, hope things come back to normal slowly. Cheers. Vodka and orange juice is tonight. Kevin, WS2H, nice to have you on board. Nothing like the dentist to be happy to get back from the dentist and the price that it costs. Rob, yeah, it's a friendly email from Microsoft. It's a senior, one of the senior prime president or whatever at Microsoft that just saying that they want me to add a couple of in the about page of my YouTube channels for Windows. They want me to add, disclaimer, I'm not in a Microsoft. It's not, the content doesn't come from Microsoft. It's an independent content from me. Nothing bad. They just want me to make sure that people understand about in the about page that it's not official Microsoft content, but it's content from third party, somebody else doing Microsoft stuff. But it was a very nice email, actually, and it's just that in a live chat that they had, somebody brought up my channels and asked if there was a link of my channels to Microsoft itself. So that's just, it's a very friendly. The guy does, the first thing he says is that we're not asking you at all to take down anything. We're just asking you to just, have in the about page, just make sure that you explain that this is not content coming from Microsoft. Others out of Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board, and was happy to help you out with the MLA30. Getting so excited. Yes, it's cool. It's nice. It's an amazing antenna for the price, I got to say. Page Master, nice to have you on board from Moore, Oklahoma. KC5VOY. WA5136SWL. Meow to Mr. Paul, that is sleeping just on the other side of the camera here. So basically, Paul is there. What else do we have? Frank Island and Paul Ethon is re-releasing the Grundig Satellite 750, now called Ethon Elite 750. Does anyone have the original, and what do you think of it? Universal Radio taking pre-orders. So anybody want to share their own knowledge of this Grundig Satellite 750? Roberto Rojas, nice to have you here, my friend. Chin chin. Charity X, nice to have you on board. VT Radio, calling CQ on 14074 FT8. So in Essex Junction, Vermont. Jevin Robert Milligan, nice to have you on board. Managed to catch Spectres of Shortwave by Amanda Dawn Christie. Very beautiful and sad piece of film. Absolutely loved it. It is a very beautiful documentary. Clark Jessen, 9690, Radio Exterior de España, booming, S9 plus 40. Remember, guys, they have resumed English and French and Portuguese. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 22 Universal Time, they now have their English language back, and at 22:30, French language back. So it started last weekend. So nice to see that Spain is back in English. It's only on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, by the way. Charles Williams, nice to have you here. From San Diego, California. Free Saxon, nice to have you on board. Take care, my friend. I know it's late over there in the UK. Brent, nice to have you on board from Brockville, Ontario, Canada. Rick Satter, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. Pretty cool. Brent saying hello to Elizabeth N. Martin. Frank Ireland says, also thinking about getting the Ethon Field, but not sure which version to get. Want a larger portable with knobs. There is, I gotta say, there is something about having a big radio that is appealing and fun. Today we buy radios, and most portables are little tiny things that you have buttons on and you have in your hand, and it's like, wow, it's cool. I mean, they're amazing. What they do is totally amazing, but they are small, and it's really a lot of fun to see that. It's a lot of fun to see that it is. They're so powerful and all, but especially for us guys that come from another time of shortwave when radios were pretty big, even the small ones. It's kind of cool, to have a nice big radio in your hand and tuning with the knobs and stuff. But the funny thing about radios today is even the big radios are very small circuits in the middle of a really big packaging. William Moser, nice to have you here, my friend. Rufus Newt, screwdrivers. Yes, pretty much. Larry Cordy, nice to have you on board from New York. Binghamton, New York. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here. Dan V says, wow, Jill knows Bill Gates. Glenn Zegman, nice to have you here from Tennessee. After dawn, I was given a Grundig 800 satellite. The telescopic antenna is pulled or broke. Can it be fixed, or should I just use external antenna? I would pretty much use external antenna. As for being fixed, there surely is a way to fix the telescopic. You need to open the radio and look. This is unfortunately for a lot of radios. Some radios are more flimsy than others with that. Some radios have very flimsy telescopics, and they're easy to break. And I mean, guys are guys. We are always, I know that myself personally, I'm a little rough on electronics. I'm a rough guy when I play with the radios. So broken parts is something that I'm used to because I just ain't careful. But it's up to you. I would use an external antenna or something, and it wouldn't work great. Clark Justin, any news of All India Radio coming back on the air soon? It already is back on the air for many transmissions. I haven't had yet anybody confirm that they were listening to All India Radio English or any other external service, but I know that they did reactivate shortwave pretty much. So I think it's something we'll need to check out, because I want to know also if they are on the air. And I haven't thought about checking, honestly. So if anybody hears All India Radio English or any other language, let us know. But I know that there are some frequencies back reactivated, because I've seen, I think it was on World of Radio, on the World of Radio page. A Yahoo group actually is, I think that's where I saw some people mentioning India back on the air. But I haven't seen any posts of people listening to the English language broadcast. Glenn Zekman saying hello, Elizabeth. William Moser, how can you go on the AM band before you get to the long wave band? With what radio and because the AM band is yeah. What radio and are you using? Just a question here. Artist Alicratus Kitchen says, what did you think of last night's reception of ACJB? Signal was amazing. I have no other explanation aside from good propagation. But it happens from time to time, Arthur. It's really propagation, okay? Because they are using 10 kilowatts, which is not very powerful. It's still 10,000 watts. But up here yesterday, it was amazingly good. It's interesting because everybody down south, which were actually closer technically to Ecuador, we're not getting it very well. But up here, in my case here in Montreal, was really amazing, the signal that we got last night from ACJB. And you know what? It happens from time to time. When you listen, it's one of the frequencies I check regularly, 6050. And it happens from time to time that you tune it and you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's actually very good right now. I am tuning it now. 6050 HCJB is coming in as well as last night right now. Super clear signal, 6050. And boy, when they put on that the Ecuadorian music, oh man, I go back in time into the HCJB years of the past. So 6050, it's coming in really well. I'm getting S9 plus here at peaks. It's more than S9 actually. A really good signal again of 6050 HCJB here in Montreal. So that's from Quito, Ecuador. They have 10 kilowatts. Crindon Total 4 KJ7 NUX. Sweet, eBay just told me my mini whip finally shipped. Cool. A lot of people use the mini whip. They are popular and in low noise environments seem to be very, very impressive. What else do we have? Clark Gilson, 9700 Radio Veritas broadcasting in Kachin from Santa Maria de Galeria to Asia. Cool. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. First haircut in 3 months today. Woohoo! No more Mickey Delmich. Sorry. Stephen Wood, All India on at approximately 1316 UTN 11560, mostly Dari and Pashto, but there's a 15-minute English segment close to the end. Heard here on Cape Cod, but not very well and never in English. Okay. I have to check it out because I know they were reactivating shortwave, but I didn't see or hear anybody mention their listening to their English or French language broadcasts lately. How far can you go on the AM band before you get to the long wave band using any radio? Well, actually, if you have the capability of tuning long wave and medium wave on a radio, medium wave or the AM band is technically from roughly 520 to 1710 kilohertz. So 520 all the way up to 1710 is the AM band. Now, that said, when we talk about long wave, if we want to be technical is that long wave starts below 300 kilohertz. Medium wave is about 300 kilohertz and up. So what's below 300 kilohertz is long wave officially, but most long wave receiver will tell you that you're in long wave at 400 or 500 kilohertz, which is technically not true, but you know the way that they branded the radios is like that. But the official AM band is 520 to 1710 kilohertz. Rufus Newt, S9 for 6050 in Laurentian Valley again. Brent, lots of atmospheric noise here in Ontario tonight. Yeah, it's thunderstorms. We're getting into the summer season, so we're getting all the static crashes from the thunderstorms that are far away. Tell us about New House. Nice to have you on board from Brazil. And that's pretty much a winner. Shortwave, pizza, and wine. Can't complain. That sounds like heaven to my ears. Rufus says at the present time 6050 is better on the long wire. Clark Gilson not getting anything on 60050. Frank Ireland, just HCJB have English broadcasts? Nope. HCJB as discontinued English many years ago, and that is the last frequency that they are using from Quito, Ecuador. Now, I'll say a little something. I said, do they have any English broadcasts? I said no. I believe they have a 15 or 30-minute show that is a preacher that has a show in English once or twice a week, but technically it's not. Yeah, there's the English service that's broadcast to Central Europe, but that's, I don't call that the English service of HCJB for a very simple reason. It's not what HCJB was and used to be. It's not like it was before, but I know there's a German service also. Gaëtan Bellil, salut de Sainte-Sophie. Nice to have you here. So 6050, the last and only frequency left from Quito, Ecuador. Somebody asked me the other day about why they left shortwave and all, and there's a lot of things that are simply that are simple here. The English language and HCJB itself left shortwave. They were a major international broadcaster back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, they were all over the place. For a lot of us, HCJB was the first international broadcaster one of the first international broadcasters we would hear. I remember thinking, that was so cool. That I remember thinking how Quito, Ecuador sounded so exotic as a location, And they had some great shows, like the DX Party Line, which was probably one of the DX shows that most shortwave listeners listened to, with all the other shows that existed on different stations, Basically, what happened is, they noticed a decline in listenership. Having shortwave broadcasts costs a lot of money, and they had a very extensive schedule of shortwave broadcasts. And the fact that I remember it started somewhere in the 80s when the government started telling them that there was going to be a new airport, and that the antennas on PFO, their transmitter site, were kind of at the wrong place, because the planes would go over there and they would need to remove. So the first time they started talking about that in the 80s, their main idea in the 80s was to move the transmitter site to another location. So that means that in the 80s, they still were thinking shortwave broadcasts would continue. And for several years, they were looking for another location where they could put the transmitters and move the antennas. But as time went by, and as the 80s went into the 90s, the Cold War ended, and late 90s and early 2000, and the internet and everything, I think at one point somebody somewhere said, you know what, for the price it's going to cost to move all of that equipment and buy land, because they're going to have to buy some land to have all the antennas and everything, somebody probably said, let's pull the plug. This is not going to be a viable option. If it wasn't for that and all of that happening, I think HCJB would have continued. I don't know if it would still be there, but I think HCJB maybe would have continued a little more. I think HCJB would have continued um, to to broadcast several years more because you didn't have to do anything. But it was so costly to do so that they just decided, okay, maybe it's time to pull the plug. And it was that, they pulled the plug at that time when a lot of very popular stations pulled the plug, like Radio Netherlands and all of that. But I think it's one of the broadcasters. If I have a choice of broadcasters I miss on shortwave, and I mean with their programs that I would listen to and all, HCJB is there in the top 10. That's for sure. There are quite a few stations I enjoyed listening. That HCJB was one of them, of my favorites. They had the way, because let's face it, HCJB was a religious broadcaster, is a religious broadcaster, but they did things in a different way. It wasn't like today's. What I would have to say about today's religious broadcasters is the shove it in your face type religious program. And that I hate. If you shove Jesus in my face directly and that's all, I'm not going to listen. That's for sure. HCJB had a different approach. There were some programs that were kind of shove in your face religion, but a lot of their programs were a mix of, all sorts of things and little bits here and there of Jesus in the Bible. I mean, if you listen to the DX Party Line, it was their DX show. They would talk about radio and all of that, but they would have a little bit in the middle of the show that would talk about, do you know Jesus, or did you know that the Bible says this or that? And if you want to know more, then write us and, we'll help you out. That I got no problem with. It's a way of, the program itself was interesting. If it's the kind of way of doing it that if you're not interested, it's easy to just, kind of, move away and just enjoy the rest of the show that you enjoy. Um, I think the way they did it was nice and was well done. Even though, for anybody that is against religious broadcasting, and I know a few that were not that happy with HCJB over time, because they're, I remember, I think Glenn Hauser ranting quite a few times about HCJB's way of, being a religious broadcaster. But overall, I'd rather have that as a religious broadcaster and that has other programs than have, that 15555 station that is preacher only, or even WWCR. I mean, honestly, WWCR, apart from the DX block that I listen to, it's religious stuff all day long. I don't listen to that. I rather have a mix of things. WTWW, for example. They might still have Brother Stare, and they might still have some religious stuff. But at least WRMI, did I say WTWW? WRMI. At least WRMI has relays of shortwave broadcasts and stuff, And even WTWW, which does have some religious stuff. Well, it has music programs, and it has a couple of DX shows, and it's got the QSO radio show on Tuesdays, and it's got the tonight it's the other ham radio show, Ham Nation. They have Glenn Hauser's roller radio, stuff like that. That's okay. When you have a mix of stuff, you have less of a hard time than when your main goal is broadcasting Jesus 24 hours a day. That's frankly, that for me is shut down the station. That's my opinion on it. Yeah, it's long wave, medium wave, and then short wave. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what else do we have? Let's check it out here. JRDX 80 meters was very staticky last night. Yeah, well, there's a lot of static crashes. Yep, SpaceX launch was really nice. They really did a nice job. Absolutely, Gaten. Jaron Robert Milligan says, "I've been hearing Brother Stare trial starts soon. Hope he goes to jail for what he did. I can tell you that." VE3KRP, nice to have you here, Fast Eddie. VE3KRP in Ontario. Jaron Robert Milligan. So the NASA frequencies, all I heard personally was one, and was the 10780 that a few others heard also, with ID as Cape Radio. That's pretty much it. But for the rest, really didn't hear anything much on the shortwave side of things, I gotta say. What else do we have? William Moser says, "Why did I think it was the other way around?" You know what? Probably what mixes up is the fact that because of the wavelength. So the wavelength is reverse from the frequency. What I mean by that is that the higher the frequency, the smaller the wavelength, and the lower the frequency, the bigger the wavelength. And what happens? Long waves are very big wavelengths, so they are very low frequencies. It's always the other way around. Maybe that's why you were thinking it was the other way around, because the maybe in your head you associate the longer wavelength with higher frequencies, which is not the case. Frank Ireland, first QSL was from HCJB. They send me gifts from Ecuador also. I got tons of QSLs from HCJB. I often, they would have QSL cards every. They would have QSL cards every 2 months. I think they had like 6 cards a year. I was one of the things I'd love to do was trying to get all of the 6 cards in the series for every year, which was kind of fun. What else do we have? Hey, Bobby, why are you blocking Jasmine's posts? There's nothing bad in there. I don't get it. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? Mongoose, nice to have you here. Page Master, the lower you gun frequency, the larger the antenna. Yep, absolutely. Pretty much. So, pretty good signal from HCJB. 49 meter band seems to be very good at the moment. Tons of signals. 6180. Radio Nacional Amazona. Brazil is strong on 6180. No problem, Jasmine. Kevin J. Napalo says WRMI QSL received today. Forgot about the contact. It was from January 19th, 2020. Cool. Yeah, one of my last QSL cards. No, actually, I do have a new QSL. I do have a new QSL from listening to Radio Illuminati that I printed out here. So this is Pirate QSL. So this I printed out on photo paper to keep it really beautiful. Full page photo paper. So Radio Illuminati QSL card here. That's really cool. So this is my first QSL of 2020. And it's for a report of May 10th, 2020 at 2330 UT on 5150 kilohertz. So kind of cool. Kind of cool. So what else do we have? So no, that QSL here is a pirate radio station I heard on May 10th that QSL'd. Jasmine says 6180 coming in nicely out west here in Seattle. Cool. It's okay. We all make mistakes. So anything to say? So I will actually just break here. I'm already at the end of the list. So we have, of course, like I said, the questions that came in from Martin. So one of the first questions about that Martin is asking is what's the difference that you can note on propagation between summer and winter, which is a good question because there's definitely a difference in propagation. So if I take an example as what I listen to here, I'll take that as an example and also give an example of depending on where you live, there's more or less of a effect. So, I did one of the Shortwave for Beginner videos that talks about why stations change their schedules twice a year. And basically, the depending on the amount of light and the length of the day, that changes propagation. So between winter and summer, the more you are far north or far south, nearer to the poles, if you want, the further away you are from the equator, the closer you are to the poles, the more that effect is seen on propagation. So basically, for example, here Montreal is at 45 degrees north, which is smack between, halfway between the North Pole and the equator. What we see is that in the summertime, well, we get stations in higher frequencies later at night. A great example of that is Radio New Zealand that I've been listening with a pretty good signal this week, 13840. So for me in Montreal, 13840 propagates at midnight, and even at 1 a.m. So you might say, wow, isn't like 13840 pretty high in frequency for a nighttime frequency? And that's where you see that the effect of daytime. So there's a big chunk of the Pacific Ocean in the daytime still at midnight. Even west coast of North America is still in sunlight for local midnight Montreal, because there it's 9 p.m. that makes some of the higher frequencies still propagate up to me. One of the things you got to understand is that when darkness falls, the ionosphere doesn't disintegrate or change immediately. It's a process. That means in daytime, there's some lighting. In the daytime, there will be some in the daytime there's some sorry, I got distracted. I got a text message from a friend. So in the daytime, the higher frequencies propagate because the sunlight is making the ionosphere denser, if you want. And what happens is when the sun sets, it's a gradual process from being, the maximum usable frequency being at a certain level, and then it slowly drops down. Sometimes it's surprising. It can drop down real fast, but sometimes it's more of a very slow process. And depending on where the signal comes from, you might be surprised at how far in darkness you can actually listen to a certain signal. Another phenomena that I see here is, for example, at this time of year, we're in summer propagation now here in the northern hemisphere, where people that are following me on the show that are from Australia, for example, you guys are in winter propagation now. Well, because the North Pole is constantly in daylight at this time of year, well, 20-meter signals, 14 megahertz, from Europe can actually propagate over the pole, and we can receive them in the middle of the night here. And actually, that's something I like of summer, is the fact that I can tune 20 meters and hear all of these early bird guys that do contacts on 20 meters from Europe and Middle East before going to work, and making contacts with tons of stations here in North America. And that's a lot of fun. So basically what happens is that the longer days mean that nighttime, we often have higher frequencies still propagating. We often have stronger signals on many of the bands also for stations. But daytime will be another story. Daytime, like really here in Montreal at noon, midday, propagation is pretty crappy. It's very localized, even on the higher frequencies. There's a little bit of stations coming in, but you could see that midday summer is probably not the best shortwave time. And often you don't hear, stations are rather weak. But it does get better as the afternoon goes on. If we look at winter propagation here, in winter, the other way around, high frequencies drop off real fast. There's a big difference in the time that the sun sets. In summer, so in 3 weeks from now, the propagation in 3 weeks from now, it's going to be the longest day of the year. And that means that here the sun is going to set at around 9 p.m. local, which is 01 UT. In December here, the sun sets at 4 p.m. local. That's 21 UT. So the amount of nighttime of darkness is so long and so big that all the higher frequencies drop off faster. The North Pole is in darkness, so forget about the high frequencies propagating. So that's why I often say I've got my favorite summer listening and my favorite winter listening. So summer listening for me means Radio New Zealand. In times when Radio Australia was on the air, 17795, 16 meter, was a nighttime listening. 20 meter band amateur radio is a nighttime listening. For me, it's a summer listening. In the wintertime, that doesn't exist. In the wintertime at 6 p.m. local, the 20 meter band is dead. There's nothing. So as we go through the seasons and the amount of daylight, and depending on where you live, because like I said, some areas, and the further away you are from the equator, the more you see the drastic change in propagation from winter to summertime. And of course, that's also why stations change their frequencies twice a year. Denis Allard, salut. Nice to have you on board on a Wednesday. And says, right about now, it's fun to tune to the West Fjord Kiwi 27025 that sits on the absolute edge of our Spartic E-skip zone. Cool. Liam, nice to have you here. Purchased a Texan and I'm getting into shortwave radio. I've been watching your beginner series, enjoying the stream. Cool. A lot of people are enjoying my beginner videos, which is very, very, I have a lot more to talk about. And there's going to be not just static videos. There's going to be a lot of demonstration videos coming up that are going to be done. What else do we have? PageMaster. On May 16, 2020, I did receive a QSL from KC4 USV from McMurdo, Antarctica. That is cool. With a contact for December 25th. Now, that's a keeper. I'm sure that one has a special meaning for you. There are some QSLs we have that have very, very special meanings depending on how rare it is and from where they are. We have a I should actually go through mine as I'm scanning them and actually do a kind of a top 10 of my 10 favorite QSLs. So Rufus Newt says 6180 decent on the wire. What else do we have? Mika Dalmage. 4A15DXXE Grupo DXXE 15th anniversary special station 14205. That's what I was listening to. I was on 14205, but I didn't take time to yeah, I'm hearing them. And now there's a Whiskey 7 station. That's what I was listening before the show started. Then V 10 meter FM on 2966 with some fade in Ohio. Let's check out the Super Bowl channel here. Yeah, definitely something. It's not very strong here though. Yeah, there's definitely some sporadic e-skip. Channel 6, Super Bowl Channel 6 is on with some activity on the CB band 27025. Hubert Major, bonsoir. Nice to have you here. Toujours un plaisir, Hubert. Tom DXer says, greetings from the stormy Lower Hudson Valley, New York. So nice to have you on board. Karyono Wasman, nice to have you here from Indonesia. Pretty cool to have you here. Hope the weather and everything's fine in Indonesia. Jasmine, I received military 1 vomit over the pole at 11.253 kilohertz. John Luhy, nice to have you on board. Guess I'm lucky here. Sunsets at 10:30. So yeah, the further we are close to the pole, the bigger that range Bigger that range. Tinfoil Ushanka. Nice to have you here. John Luheed is on the Alaska Highway. Tinfoil had his first shortwave radio 8 days ago at Texan PL600. That's cool. I hope you're going to enjoy that. It's a nice little radio to use. Jasmine says, oh yeah, I forgot the RTL SDR dongle. That's what got me into this. I use it for ADSB now. For that purpose, it works great. For the purpose of ADSB, it works actually great. For shortwave, yeah. Tinfoil got an EQSL from a pirate on 6960. Yeah, that station was a ball smacker radio. Yeah, cool. That's always cool to have pirates. Me Delmich worked for A15 DXXE at 2357. So you know what? I probably, because at 2357, just as the show was about to start, I was listening to 14205. But I was busy with two things. I was busy reading an email from Microsoft, and I was busy setting up to start the stream. So I could hear the voices, but I was not kind of listening. But you know what? It's not impossible. I could have heard you. It's not impossible. I could have heard you. That's for sure. Clark Gilson said lots of CB channels alive tonight. Cool. So nice to have all of this. So propagation seems to be pretty decent. Pretty decent. So 15 megahertz. I got a really strong S9, almost S9 plus 20 signal out of WWV on 15 megahertz right now from Colorado. C. Johnson says, might be a QSL flag on the wall back there. Jerry Robert Milligan, do you get sick of hearing the same commercials on TV over and over again? I don't watch TV, so I don't have them. I don't watch TV. Last time I watched TV, really, I don't know. Probably because I stumbled across a movie I like and it was playing, and I was like, oh, this is good. But man, I don't watch TV. I watch everything online. I really watch everything online. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you on board. Working a nice countrywide 6-meter band opening, so it won't be too active here tonight. That is cool. It's always fun to have. Let me check it out here. 1554-313. I'm gonna put my VHF antenna. I'm gonna check out if I see anything on an opening on I don't seem to see much happening on 6 meters here, but who knows? Who knows? It's not lemon juice. It's vodka orange juice, or what we call here a screwdriver. Tinfoil picked up for 935, 3 identified 167, 55, 6950, 6890. Cool. There's Other Crafter's Kitchen. Cord cutting cable TV was best thing I ever did for my radio hobbies. I don't do, I watch all of my stuff online. I watch tech shows online. I follow maybe a dozen different podcasts and YouTube stuff, YouTubers. Pretty much watch that. And you know what? When I'm bored, what I do is I get in front of my smart TV. I bring up the YouTube app and I start searching for radio stuff, shortwave stuff, electronic stuff. There's so much out there. It's crazy. There's really a lot to watch. So really, really crazy. Ron Hicks, nice to have you on board. Just a moment, guys. Sorry. I'm just going to answer back. Because when that person starts texting me, and if I don't answer, I get text messages every 20 seconds. Okay, so it's mostly stuff. What else do we have? So Ron Hicks, nice to have you here. Busy writing reception reports and collecting QSLs. That's cool. Tinfoil, I really don't know. Okay, Jason Francis, nice to have you here. Put my son to bed and back. Excited for tonight's show. Cool. So Cariona Westman saying so many shortwave knowledge by watching the show. Cool. We're here for that. Everybody learn. There's all the Crafter's Kitchen. That's what I do with Apple TV. Open the YouTube app and search for radio videos. And now all the money I save with no cable TV goes back into the radio. Perfect. Cable TV is expensive when you want to have a lot of channels. And honestly, it's crazy. I have here right now probably, I don't know, I'd say I probably receive 60 or 70 different channels. And if I go through the channels, there's not a big chance that I'll stop somewhere and actually watch something. TV's become so boring. I can't understand that they think that what they're sending us is interesting. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But man. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Ron Hicks says, when I watch this show, I want to fire up the WebSDR and see if I can collect new QSLs. That's cool. Another question. So let's check out the questions here. Another question is from Martin. Is just check it out here. Okay, so Martin is asking, so he's been listening for Shortwave for a long time. And one of the things that he always wondered is what is there to listen to from 20 to 25 megahertz? He never heard anything. He says above 25, you've heard some stuff. You've heard some stations, FM relays from some stations that you've seen, actually a few videos here on my channel. He knows that the CB channels are on the 27 megahertz. He knows about the 10-meter ham band that he heard stuff in the past. But he says, I'm wondering if there's anything between 20 and 25 megahertz. Now, he does say that he heard WWV on 20 megahertz, but he's never received anything between those 5 megahertz. What is there to listen to? So, 20 to 25 is a quiet part. And one of the reasons it's a quiet part has to do with when you look at lists of frequencies, often there's less stuff that is noted on those frequency ranges. But you know what? 20 to 25. In there, there's maritime bands. There's a 13-meter international broadcast band that is used a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. You have there's, I believe, an aeronautical band, and there's all sorts of little things that can pop up here and there. And so one of the biggest problems with 20 to 25 is a mix of two things that are going together. Low solar activity mixed in with more spaced out and more difficult to listen to signals means it's difficult to, by chance, stumble upon something. So I've heard a lot of stuff over the years on that range, but it's not the range where you're going to hear tons of things smack next to each other. Most, even utility stations, tend to use the lower frequencies much more because it's less dependent on solar activity and has more chance of getting through. But so, you're asking me for a little rundown on what to expect. Let's break it into 5 megahertz of range at a time. So 20 to 21. Of course, there's 20 WWV at 20 megahertz. From 20 to 21 megahertz, in there's a lot of military, civil air patrol, U.S. Air Force stuff, frequencies that are in use. Now, like I said, because of low solar activity, propagation isn't that great right now on that range. But over time, I've heard some stuff on the 20 megahertz range. I remember hearing Canadian military a long time ago. I remember hearing some U.S. Air Force communications there. 21 megahertz, so probably the range where you'll hear the best chance to hear something. 21 to 22 megahertz. What's in there is divided basically into the first half is the 15-meter amateur band. So you're mentioning you never heard anything. I'm surprised I haven't heard stations on the 15-meter band. Even in lower solar activity, from time to time, the 15-meter band has a few ham stations. But it's been quiet on the 15-meter band a lot. It's been almost as quiet lately as the 10-meter band. And I suspect that it's not because it's not propagating. I suspect because a lot of guys are saying, well, let's not go there. It's low solar activity. No use in trying it out, So that's kind of interesting there. And so basically you have that. And the upper range, so 21,000 to 21,450 is a 15-meter band. And let's put it from 21,450 to 22,000 pretty much, is the 13 meters international broadcast band. You should hear something there. 21, let me check it out here. 21,610, I believe, is where I heard something the other day. When I say the other day, is like less than a week ago. 1610 is, WHRI, World Harvest Radio, is there from 16 to 19 UTC. And if you try every day, you'll hear it from time to time. 16 to 19 UTC, 21610. I have to say that's the only station I've heard. But if I look here at EIBI Space, it is used quite a lot. I see that there's a lot of stations that are using that range. So check it out. You might hear something. But like I said, a lot of the fact that there's the solar activity is low makes a lot of those stations pretty much impossible. 22 megahertz, if I have to resume 22 megahertz, a lot of maritime stuff there. And you can even hear some weather facts stations and weather broadcasts that are being used there. So that is possible. 22 to 23 megahertz. There's a lot of maritime stations and channel markers with Morse code and weather facts broadcasts from different parts of the world. So check that out. 23 megahertz, 24 megahertz for the most part. A mix of all sorts of utility stations. I got to say that 23 to 24 is probably the part of the spectrum I've heard the least amount of traffic. Really the least amount of traffic. So that is probably what is the worst of that range. And with low solar activity, you're probably not going to hear a lot. Even on some of the lists that I've looked at, there's not a lot of stuff that are there in that range. But, try it. You never know what you can hear. And like I say, if you want to be surprised at what you can hear on shortwave, try out the frequency ranges that you normally hear nothing. You'll be surprised at what you can hear most of the time. And 24 megahertz, what you might hear is, so don't expect to hear anything in the international broadcast band at 11 meters. There are no stations there anymore. There's absolutely no stations registered for that international broadcast band in a long, long time. But you might hear on that range some stuff on 25 megahertz, 24 to 25 megahertz. You will hear some. There's a 12 meter amateur band, and 25 to 25 to 26 is 11 meter band. Sorry, I'm mistaken the 11 meter band frequency range. So 11 meter band is 25 to 26. There you'll hear possibly some studio transmitter links that exist. The 24 to 25, a little bit like 23, 24, not that much. But there's the 12 meter ham band that's really a small chunk, about 100 kilohertz at the top. There you could hear some ham radio operators on 12 meters. When it's open, it's surprisingly popular. 24,890 to 24,990. You can try for ham radio operators on that range. So, but those are frequency ranges that with low solar activity are very, very challenging. So take the time to tune around. What else do we have? And 25 megahertz WWV is still using that frequency. It's so I got a message the other day from a guy saying, well, you were talking about 25 megahertz WWV. They haven't used that frequency since 1978. No, they're back. They've gone back many years ago. It's experimental. That means it could actually be it could actually be removed as a frequency, at any time. So, try it from time to time. They're here in Montreal, 25 megahertz when propagation is open is mostly a winter thing, but WWV is definitely there still today on 25 megahertz. What else do we have? So let's go down. Edvaldo Lemes. Nice to have you here, Edvaldo, from Brazil. PY4001SWL. I'm hearing Civil Air Patrol net 7615 upper sideband 7615 USB. (7615) USB. Civil Air Patrol net. That's always cool. There's a lot of those. When you start tuning around, the shortwave spectrum, it's surprising the amount of traffic of all different stations that you can get. Really, really pretty surprising. Rufus says he had not had TV in 3 years and in the country, and I cannot stream a lot. Much more time for radio. That's okay. And I think, I don't know about you guys, I think there's TV guys or video guys, and there's radio guys. There are definitely some people that the main medium, the main thing that they will do is listen. So that means if they do stuff on the internet, they'll tend to listen to a podcast rather than watch a video, for example. That is something that I think is probably for a lot of people what they actually do more than watch TV. I actually, when I was a tech guy and I was going everywhere, the commute between the different clients sometimes was long. My fun was to listen to all the different podcasts and different technology stuff. It was my main thing. Ron Hicks approaching 50 QSL cards. Woohoo! That's good. Digital Analog Ham. Nice to have you on board. Mark Fisher from Southern Illinois. Nice to have you here. So, MA with stars and hashtags. 4840 WWCR. Standard on scan mode on the Texan receiver. Where are you located? Rufus Newt says 87 people and only 37 thumbs up. Come on. Kariana Wasman, Radio Romania International, NHK World Radio Japan, Voice of Turkey are sending their radio stuff. But until now, almost 2 months, they do not come yet to my address. It's a mix of different things. Coronavirus totally affects the Postal Service right now. I noticed that everything international is either very slow or just like right not happening right now. Remember that these stations also have reduced staff. One of the things a lot of these stations actually did right now is have programs where the hosts are actually in their homes and they are actually doing their shows from their respective homes. So, there might not be as much staff at the station itself. So be patient. I think this year is a very unique year for that. Plus, I know that there are some postal services that aren't necessarily working well or at all. So I think a big part of all of that is coronavirus. But also just remember that, stations sometimes take a long time. It's not the main one of the aspects. I probably get once or twice a month, a message or a little something from someone saying, "Hey, I wrote to WRMI and it's been 8 months and I've got nothing." And I always tell the person that writes to me about it, keep in mind one thing is that most of these stations, they answer. Most of them, they answer. But answering listener mail is not a priority. Answering listener mail is more of, a novelty. So their main goal is to do programs that you can listen to. They're happy to hear from you knowing that you're there, but listening, sending you that QSL is not the priority of the station. So often the staff is reduced. And we talked about it. Someone was telling me how he thought he got a QSL card from a station, thinking that that was the station he heard. And I had kind of hinted that it was probably not that station that he heard. And he got a QSL, and he was thinking, well, you're wrong. I got a QSL. And then by having somebody else listening to the broadcast, that person confirmed that it was not that station, and that the QSL he had was actually a QSL that was just sent without verification. A lot of stations do that today. I mean, in the 80s, I still remember you had to be really, really good with the details and the what you were saying about the stations that you were listening to. And when you would actually write for a QSL, you really had to put the good details, because they would write back and say, well, unfortunately, we can't QSL because, the details are not right for that time. So try again. So back then, somebody was actually going with your letter, checking the logs of, yeah, we did talk about that and that show and that thing. QSL, Today, they don't do that. Today, it's like, oh, you heard us? Wow, cool, QSL. And they don't verify anymore. And over the years, that verification process for QSL cards slowly faded away. So today, I'm pretty sure today you would send a letter with gibberish and a frequency that doesn't even exist on their schedule, and that they would send you, well, yeah, thank you for sorry guys, they would write you back and say, hey, thanks for listening to us on 24665. Maybe not all of them, but I'm pretty sure some of them would just like, yeah, thanks for listening. We confirm your reception of NHK World on 24665. It may be not that bad, maybe they would at least verify a frequency, but verification process today is close to zero. They just send you a card. Yeah, here's a QSL. So yeah, Jasmine, Civil Air Patrol right now at 7615. I'm hearing the traffic pretty well here. Cool AM Radio, Andre. Nice to have you on board. I hope you are well, my friend. Yeah, utility stations, actually, absolutely. You can QSL utilities. I've got a few QSL from utilities here. I've got Shannon Volmit station in Ireland. I've got, of course, WWV and WWVH and CHU. You can QSL a lot of utility stations. One of the tricky stuff of utilities that's important to know is that you might need to include postage or self-addressed stamped envelopes and stuff like that, because they are not international broadcasters, and utility stations don't necessarily have a budget for correspondence with QSLs. So that's one thing that's important to know. Tinfoil is getting only static on 7615 upper sideband in Tennessee. Joseph Ingenbaum says he's barely picking up the Civil Air Patrol on 7615, Bay Area, California. Ron Hicks, KC5 VOI. I believe I've seen your call sign under the WTWW song requests. When I go there, I always write official SWL channel YouTube. Oh man, I don't know if people came over to see my live shows or see my videos by seeing that on the WTWW request. I like that. I sometimes in the evening, and when I don't know what to listen to and they have music, I put it on 5085. I do other things. I work on my stuff, and I go and put my 2 requests and wait until I hear them and listen to some music. It's kind of cool. Rufus Newt, 7615 upper sideman, very low, but certainly there. Ron Hicks, yep, I do listen to WTWW quite regularly, actually. Quite regularly, honestly. What else do we have? Joseph still getting the air patrol through all the way down here. Jasmine highly recommends the MLA 30. Yep, pretty amazing antenna. What else do we have? If the audio cuts out, just refresh. Refresh your browser. Some of the civil air patrol stations are pretty strong. Frank Ireland used to do TVDXing. No luck since going digital. Yeah, I've not really heard any TVDXing or received TVDXing, but I always wonder, do people do? Is it a thing to do some TVDXing with since the channels have gone digital? Anybody doing that? Or do you know anybody that's doing it? Jasmine says into everything. Listen to podcasts, watch TV shows on Amazon, Prime, Netflix, and YouTube TV. Watching gaming stuff on Twitch. Cool. It is fun. There's the fun. There's also the fun part of the shortwave for mysteries and stuff. I mean, everybody. I got like 4 or 5 emails from last Friday's show. A lot of you enjoyed the fact that we chased all of those Russian spy stations and had a lot of fun. Frank Ireland, 1973, received KRTV 3 from Great Falls, Montana, on indoor rabbit ears in Kansas. The first time I've ever DX'd TV. So I had an old black and white 20-inch TV that my parents didn't use. And I've always been interesting when we say there's an interest, a general interest in something. I've always been very interested in every aspect of everything that receives radio signals. And of course, a TV receives radio signals to show and display the picture. So one of the first things that I was doing regularly is I would take it out of storage, put it on the kitchen table at night, and I would play with it for a while, and I would go, after I finished, I would take it and put it back in the storage. And my fun was to see what stations from far away I could receive on the TV. And I would tune all the time, and I would go through, and it was one of those old TVs that went all the way to UHF channel 83, which then changed to UHF 69 on the more modern ones. And one day, I had no idea that it was a possible thing. One day, a Friday evening, I remember as a Friday evening, it's a Friday evening where I had school that day. And it was late May, early June. So, school was almost over for summer vacation. And it was Friday night. I had a day of school. I took the TV out at like 7 p.m., put it on a kitchen table, and it didn't have rabbit ears. What I would do is I would take two pieces of wire of different lengths. Well, actually, two pieces that were the same length, but they weren't always the same length. Sometimes I would put longer wires or smaller wires and do loops and try shapes and stuff, and put it into a square or a triangle and see if it improves anything. And one day I was playing around with that, and that Friday evening. And when I got into channel 4, I noticed there was a picture, a pretty good picture. Now, on channel 4 here at the time, the only channel 4 that existed was a French CBC outlet in Quebec City, which is something like 150, 200 kilometers away. So I remembered that I had seen that Quebec City station from time to time when, there was some, temperature inversions and stuff, and tropospheric ducting. But that was pretty much it. Now, that day, I had a very clear picture that would fade in and out, and it was in English. So it's like, okay, that's not Quebec City. And I remember they were playing Jeopardy. The first half hour or whatever that I was watching, it was Jeopardy game show. I was like, what's that? So it got me hooked, because now I put the wires in the best way possible for reception. I sat down and I watched that for a few hours, and it would fade out, fade in. Sometimes it would fade out and another station would fade in, also in English. And I was like, what the hell's happening? I had no idea back then what phenomena that could be. That was the first time I was actually getting TVDX with no knowledge at all of what could be happening for that to be received. And I received... So the first hour when the ID showed up, of course, Murphy's Law, you have to have a fade out at the moment they were showing the station ID. So, I had a nice picture. They were about to give station identification, fade out. Just, nothing. It comes back in about a minute later, and it's like, did they just identify the station in that moment where it actually dropped out? Of course it did. So it made me listen more. And at one point, I had received a station when they identified it was Channel 4 from Alabama. Dothan, Alabama, or something like that. I'm trying to remember the city. But it was a Channel 4, definitely a Channel 4 from the state of Alabama. And I can tell you, I was jumping up and down. I remember going in the living room screaming to my mom, I'm getting a station on Channel 4 from Alabama. My mom's staring at me like, what are you talking about? Can't be. What are you doing? What the hell? I think I even think she mumbled something like, stop playing with the TV, you're going to break it. And it got me hooked. And then after that, I listened a lot more. I watched a lot more. I would bring out the TV. That summer, I probably brought out the TV 2 or 3 times a week in the evenings, even in the afternoons, tuning around and seeing if I can get more of those stations. It's much later when I think it was in Monitoring Times magazine, or maybe even Popular Communications magazine. When I started buying these magazines, there was an article about TVDXing. And that day, it made me understand that one, TVDXing is a thing for some people. And two, it made me understand that sporadic E-skip or very high solar activity, that's also possible, made those signals on, those high frequencies propagate like shortwave. And I was happy to learn that. I was like, oh, this is so cool. That's what I was getting. That's why I'm getting Alabama. So that was really, really cool. That was really, really, really cool. I can tell you that. So really amazing. Honestly, that's really cool. Okay, what else do we have? Dr. Sisup, nice to have you here. WTWW strong on 5085. Joe, love your Windows 10 channel. New 2004 updates pulled from updates. Cool. As I was saying at the beginning of the show, I got an email from Microsoft that is asking me to just do a little change on my channel and make sure that in the about section of the channel, that I write that the content is not from Microsoft, but from me talking about Microsoft. The email came from Jason Howard, the guy that's at the head of the Insider team, actually. One of the guys at the head of the Insider team. So, but it was a very polite and very nice email. It was, I'm head of Insiders, and it happened a few times that we heard about somebody doing some Insider stuff and some Windows stuff on YouTube, and people were asking if was associated with them. So he actually looked at the content. And he wrote to me, and the first thing that he said is, we're not asking you to take down anything. It's fine. We got no problem with the content. The only thing we would like is that in the about section of your channel, can you just state that this is not an official Microsoft channel, please? That's all we ask. So I'm going to do that after the show. I'm going to go and change the about on my Windows channel. But it's kind of fun to see that somebody at Microsoft took notice of my channels. But, it probably coincides with 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was participating in one of the Windows Insider live webcasts. And somebody in the chat said, hey, Tech Guy Montreal, are you the guy from the Windows Insider channel in Montreal, Canada? I said, yeah, I am. So it was kind of funny. Somebody knew who I was, which is kind of nice, It's like, wow, people know who I am. This is kind of cool. What else do we have? Fred Newland, nice to have you on board. Hearing Vatican Radio on World Radio Network right now on 9950 kilohertz AM, probably 9955 maybe. Radio New Zealand International was on before this, near Toronto, Radio 105 and 25 feet long wire. So probably relays, I would guess, because I don't see any other possibility in that frequency. Fast Load, nice to have you here from Montreal. Matt says, nice 6 meter opening on 6 meter. I tried a little bit, but I didn't hear anything. Jasmine got Tri-Blade 19 on Civil Air Patrol Net on 7615 S9. A lot of the stations on 7615 were pretty strong. M-Star hashtag. Southwest Pennsylvania. Cool. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Lecture Sysop. 12 meters is 24. Now we're talking about 12 meter ham band, which is 24,890 to 24,990. Jason Francis, fortunately for NHK, I sent 2 frequencies that I heard their show. on, and they verified one and told me the second frequency was incorrect. I wrote in Japanese though. Okay, so they are verifying. At least they verify the frequencies, but a lot of stations don't verify anything anymore. Garden Lyle, nice to have you on board from Southern Illinois. Some static crashes tonight. Yeah, lots of thunderstorms in the States, and it shows on the lower frequencies. I do have static crashes. I'm being relayed on 9630 upper sideband. Really? 9630? I am not hearing much, but okay. Somebody is relaying my show, apparently. I'm a guy on the air. Man, okay. That's kind of funny. It happened. Yeah, 9630 upper sideman. My stream is relayed. This is kind of cool. Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. 88.7 Fahrenheit over there. Wow. Old radio man. I've done some digital TVDX from mountaintop with digital. You see the call sign and really speeds up things. I'm going to need to try that out. I'm really going to need to try that out. I didn't try it, but you're right about that. It gives all the details. So it makes it easier when the signal's strong enough. Probably have all the idea. This is pretty good. I'm going to have to try it out. VE2FGJ, nice to have you on board. Have you tried to use OBS to share your SDR screen as well as your camera feed at the same time so we could see what frequency and what I'm? Yeah, I am in. All of that will happen at some point because I'm here. I'm going to completely redo the office here for streaming purposes. So yes, eventually it will be done. VE2FGJ. What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, MLA30 antenna is almost $50 now. Does it work indoors? For a lot of people, it does. Mickey Dalmich says Rich McVicker, former HCJB host, still does TVDX from upstate New York. He did a forum at Winterfest a few years ago about TVDX adventures. Cool. Dr. Sisop, show me your MLA30 again. I want to see if it is too big to use indoors in an apartment for friends. It's rather small, honestly. The loop is probably, and if I put my face, the loop is probably this big, of thin wire. It's really not big, honestly. It's really a thin wire, and for an apartment, it's perfect. It's not big enough. It's not big enough to be a problem. It's of all the antennas you could have indoors, especially if you don't have a lot of space. I think it's the best, the best that you can have if you want to try to get stations for sure. XNADXer a few minutes ago had first E-skip unidentified through his local NPR station, 91.3 KUAF, Fayetteville, Arkansas. No, AR. Arkansas? It's an AK, Arkansas. AR. Artist Crafters Kitchens. I have a QSL letter from one of the CBC TV stations in Quebec that I picked up in Massachusetts back in the 80s. E-skip was unbelievable. But back then, in the 80s, most of the time it was not even E-skip. It was just skip. Because in the 80s, we had those really big solar cycles. And, I wish I would have had the knowledge that I have today and go back in the 80s. Because there's so much things I would have enjoyed trying that I totally was ignorant about. And one of the first things I would have tried is, constant TVDX. And I would have tried so many other things. You can go back in time and you can't regret anything. But man, it would be cool to go back to those big solar cycles of the 80s. And with the knowledge I have today, and of course, equipment that's more decent, because I mean, that also was not helping out, having radios that are subpar. I mean, the DX100 here, that was pretty crappy. The X302 is not a great performer when it's, the realistic DX302, when I had it, I found it okay, but I noticed quite fast that when there were strong stations on the band, there was it would wash out the weak stations. Today, it would probably be a better performer because there's not as many strong signals as there were back then. But it was definitely a crappy radio at the time for the performance, unfortunately. Shitty Pyro 90 getting some E-skip. Gordon Lyle, New Zealand, 13840, running +10. So it will be that way here past midnight. It was very strong in the past 2 days. Let me try it out here. Oh, it's already pretty good. Wow, it's already pretty good here too. Yep. S9 +20 at peaks here. 13840, Radio New Zealand right now. Really, S9 +10. Sometimes S9 +20, and when it actually has peaks, which is very strong. And this will improve here on the East Coast. So if I have it that strong, in an hour from now, it's going to be even better. There's kind of a peak. Starts at like 9 p.m. We start hearing it, and it goes up. And it peaks around 11 p.m. here in Montreal. From 11 to midnight local, which is 0304 UT, usually have a really good signal. And at midnight UT, slowly starts to fade out. But it's okay because usually it's listenable until the end. It actually signs off at what, 0455? Something like that to change frequency. This is what I call my summer listening, Radio New Zealand, which is always fun. I was surprised. I didn't know that they were relaying the BBC World Service at 04 UT. I was surprised when I heard that. Tinfoil is getting New Zealand strong on 13840. Dr. Sisab got TV skip from Bermuda once. It was not ATSC, it was DVB-T. Okay. So the TV could not decode it, yeah. What else do we have? So apparently I'm on the air on 9630 upper sideband, and you got to send your email to sickoradio@gmail.com to get the confirmation. William Moser, are there any shortwave channels out of Aruba or anything around it? Not a lot of stuff out of the Caribbean on shortwave, unfortunately, for international broadcasters. But you do have a lot of amateur stations, especially at this time. A lot of them are actually, kind of going to their even in the winter. There's a lot in the winter because a lot of guys, want to escape the cold weather, and they go to their favorite hideaway, and Bermuda, Aruba, and all of these Caribbean islands. So ham radio operators is pretty much your best bet for these Caribbean islands. One of the stations I haven't heard in a while, if you guys want to try it, I'm going to bring out the time that they broadcast. Anybody recently heard this station? It is Bermuda. Because Bermuda Harbor is on shortwave on 2582. So the next broadcast that I'll try is at 0435 tonight. So Bermuda Harbor, ZBM, it's a 10-minute broadcast of weather from Bermuda on 2582 frequency. Last time I've heard them was last year. So I'm trying to see if I can hear them again. I want to try to log them and make a video. Kind of interesting. So 2582. Keegan is multitasking, FMDXing, and watching my show. You know, that's the perfect thing. If I would not be the host, if I would be I would be one of the guys watching that guy from Canada doing a live show. I would be listening into the radio and watching the show at the same time, listening to whatever that guy must be saying. I'm sure it's really super interesting, but oh man. Gordon Lyle says, I hear 9630, about 2 on a signal meter. Cool. Jasmine says, you know, OBS makes it easy to simulcast on both YouTube and Twitch. So really, it was 10 minutes ago? Cool. Arkansas. Okay, AR is Arkansas. AK is Alaska. Thanks, guys. And AZ is Arizona. Okay, AR, Arkansas, AK. Sorry, guys, but I'm not from the U.S., so there are a few of your states' abbreviations that sometimes kind of fool me. One that I had to get used to was MA and ME, because MA is Massachusetts and ME is Maine. Dr. Sisop says he's got 9996 time signal. Let's try it out. 9996 is RWM time signal out of Russia. Yes, it's there. I hear it. Right now, it's very fast little time pips. So if you guys hear really fast little time pips on 9996 right now, that is RWM time signal out of Moscow, Russia. Believe it or not, on that frequency, I believe they only have 4 kilowatts. 4 kilowatts. 9996 CW, or if you don't have CW, 9995 upper sideband. So right now I hear it. It's very fast time pips. So Moscow, Russia time signal coming in. RWM. They actually QSL, by the way, guys. For those that are in the QSL mode, you can send them a reception report. Keegan says, heard the BBC on Radio New Zealand a few times. Matt also. I was surprised to hear the BBC running over RNZI. Dr. Sisop, what time WTWW 5085 goes off the air? It is, according to the schedules, 5085 is to stop at, let me just check it out here. So this is according to EIBI space schedules. It is supposed to be an all-nighter. It says here 23 UT until 11 UT. So it's all night. You should be getting it all night, technically. That's according to EIBI space schedules. And on Saturdays, they start an hour earlier at 22 UT. For those that weren't there at the beginning, I just wanted to say that don't forget that Radio Exterior de España is back with English language broadcasts, French language broadcasts, Portuguese broadcasts on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. English is at 22, French is at 22:30, and Portuguese at 23. So if you want to listen in to your favorite English out of Radio Exterior de España, they started back in English last weekend. So, and I confirm because I heard their English and French broadcast on Monday night, 22 to 23 UT. Sheldon Harvey in Greenfield Park, Quebec. Nice to have you on board. And I'm sure that working hard on the June edition of the Messenger, which is the Canadian International DX Club Bulletin. That's going to be out soon. So why not, if you haven't asked for a sample copy of The Messenger, which is a beautiful publication, you can ask for a sample. CIDXclub@yahoo.com. Do not ask if you've asked for a sample before. And still hearing 9996 CW, RWM time station in Moscow, Russia right now, with very fast little time pips going on. Real art uplifts. You should not throw your radio across the room. You should put an external antenna or see why you're not receiving anything. You might have too much noise. Tom DXer, nice to have you on board. It says got a QSL from Windward Islands Broadcasting Service in Grenada. I never heard Grenada in all of my time. So hey, Sheldon is just saying what I said, putting the final touches on the June 2020 edition of CIDX. So if you want to have a sample copy. Prasad, nice to have you here. Prasad from India. Always nice to have you here. Hope you are well too, my friend, and staying safe. It's nice to have you on board. No problem. Yeah, pretty good health here. No problem there. Matt, nothing on 9996 here, but it's early. Tend to find 9997 LSB is better. Yeah, that's true. You know how I often know that RWM is there? When it's strong enough and I try to tune WWV on 15 or 10 or 5, I noticed the time pips in I could hear the time pips while I'm listening to WWV, and I know that RWM is there, just a little lower. But that's actually a very good tip too. Like Matt says, since 9996 is close to 10 megahertz, if you have a strong WWV, you could try 9997 lower sideband. It moves you away from WWV when you're listening. Rufus Newt 9996, excellent on the FRG 7700 and MLA 30. Cool. Real art uplifts. Tried 20 feet of wire outside at night, almost no improvement. You probably have too much noise in your environment, my friend. That is the problem. If it's very, very noisy where you are, the problem is putting up a wire outside doesn't necessarily improve, unfortunately. That means it's very noisy where you are. What radio are you using, by the way? Gurren Lyle says, got WWV on 20 megahertz right now, 7 to 9 signal, good audio. Cool. Cool. Keely Allen, nice to have you here. Did you notice any real difference when getting rid of the MLA 30 plus stock coax and replacing it with real coax? Personally, I didn't do any of these modifications, but what I see from my observations of other people doing it, it seems to be a mixed bag. I personally, and that's my own opinion, think it doesn't change anything. But some people say yes, it does. But there are some people that say no. Dr. Sisop, where's that, Mexico or Cuba? So Mexico usually is on 6185. 6185, let me check it out here. I do hear it. It's difficult if you're not an upper sideband because of Brazil on 6180. But I do hear, I do get Mexico right now on 6185. When I put myself in upper sideband, it's there, 6185. As for Cuba, 5025 and 6000 kilohertz, Cuba is there. Spain is on 9690, 11940, and 12030. Actually, it's on right now on 9690 in Spanish. Very, very strong here. So 96.90, 11.940, and 12.030 for Spain. Gordon Lyle needs to renew his subscription. Please do. Please do. Yeah, you'll have to go outdoors in a park or something. You'll have to go outdoors. It's like here. Here, I have a sweet spot in the kitchen where I get some radio. But for example, if I look at here, my office, if I turn on a radio, forget it. There's not a lot. And if I put a wire outside this window here, it's not going to improve. That's probably like a dead spot like you are in. So you will have to take the portable radio outside, go away from the houses in a park or something, and try it there. That's the unfortunate thing of technology of shortwave today. The amount of noise that we have, which is crazy, and preventing us from really having a lot of fun with our hobby, unfortunately. So you'll have to go outside. Matt says, I've heard RWM mostly on 9996 here, a few times on 14996 and never on 4996. Yeah, I've heard it on all three frequencies. Usually 4996 is winter time most of the time here. What I will often do is go on 4625 sometimes and check if I hear the buzzer, which I'm trying right now, but I don't think I'm going to hear it. So I'm not hearing the buzzer. And usually June, July, I don't hear the buzzer in 4625. But if I do hear the buzzer on 4625, I will try 4996 for the time signal at RWM. The worst part is I'm actually hearing very, very weak on 4996. So right now, if you tune 9996, or it's a carrier, and after that carrier ends, I think they're gonna ID RWM in Morse code. Dr. Sisop, when is that Iqaluit shortwave start broadcasting? Oh yeah, Iqaluit. You know what? I haven't tried it this year. Iqaluit station. Those that were live the time that I got it, I was so excited. It's like a little kid again on shortwave. So Iqaluit station, Iqaluit. So they're on 2582. But the frequency we heard Iqaluit the other time was on 6507. So 6507. Well, they had a broadcast that just ended on 5803. $6507 Iqaluit is 2235 to 2315. 2235 to 2315. I gotta put a note in my stuff to remind me of listening to this. 2235 to 2315. 6507. That's Iqaluit in the in Nunavut in northern Canada. Need to try that out. They even have a WeatherFax, not a WeatherFax, a Navtex broadcast. I've never heard the Navtex though. Rufus Newt, airwaves are alive tonight. Yeah, propagation looks really good. There's a lot of stuff on the bands. A lot of stuff on the bands. Keegan has WWV on 5 and 10 megahertz with a pretty good signal. Real Arm Uplift says the rollout of 5G Wi-Fi routers, I believe, has increased their interference. That's one thing that we have to understand also, is that there's part of the noise. Here, I always suspected that when DSL was rolled out on telephone cables, that the noise suddenly increased a lot. There's supposed to be rules and regulations. The problem is that there's kind of, I'm going to say it straight. There's kind of no respect for the shortwave spectrum. If you call in and say, I'm a shortwave listener and I can't hear Radio New Zealand because you put out, DSL, you're going to either have someone look at you like you're a weird guy, or it's just not interesting, and because you'll be probably the only one calling. And I suspect that, and as we get rollout of new technologies, all the new technologies everywhere, and the telephone poles and all the towers and everything, of course it increases our overall noise everywhere, plus our own use of technology. I mean, my office, I'd be curious to see a measurement of the noise level in my office of RF noise. Because, I mean, here it's pretty much impossible to listen to something on shortwave, without doing some magic, basically. Refus says, my housemate just asked me, how many things are you listening to? Hey, it's called multitasking. We do several things at once. Oh, man. Trenton Military on 6754. Let me just try to find where I was. I just lost. Here we go. Okay, Trenton Military traffic. 11232 upper sideband. Let me try that. 11232. I haven't heard traffic there in a while. I was so excited to hear the CFARS net, the Canadian Forces Auxiliary Radio System net last week. Matt says, yeah, there's no chance of 4996 in the summer. I suppose it's possible that there are openings to Colorado in the winter. I just miss 4996. Moscow is much. So Montreal is 45 degrees north. Moscow is higher than that. Moscow, Russia. Moscow latitude. Moscow is at 55.75 degrees north. So that means that the night there is not not as long as the one here at this time of year. Plus the fact that I suspect that 4996 probably and might often actually propagate over the North Pole in darkness in the winter. And that's why I would hear it. And I'm going to check something here because RWM is Moscow, but the buzzer, St. Petersburg, it's near St. Petersburg, Russia. Latitude. So St. Petersburg is even worse. It's 59.9. It's almost 60 degrees north. So that means that St. Petersburg is very high in latitude, and that's why the buzzer is probably also. I wouldn't be surprised that the buzzer we hear in the wintertime is propagating through the North Pole, which is the shortest route from St. Petersburg to Montreal, for example. And now the North Pole is in daylight, so 4625 is not going to go through the North Pole. That's why June, July, I don't think I've ever heard the buzzer in June and July, ever. But I hear it when we start getting into, like August Days are getting shorter. During Lionel, I usually through my phone speaker and WWV through my desk speaker. When it mixes just right, sounds like I'm getting an EVP paranormal shortwave. A paranormal shortwave event. It's funny because I was scanning my QSL cards yesterday, and I got to show you guys. I think it's just here because I did it last night. So I got a QSL card from Costa Rica. So here goes. So of course I was a poor boy. I was a poor boy back then. So I didn't have any money. You know, I mean, so this is from what year? 1984. So I was 15 years old. I had no money except to buy stamps and envelopes, and that's it. So I got, of course, a QSL card from Radio Reloj, Costa Rica. This is from 1984. But look at what they wrote on the bottom of the card. I don't know if you guys can read it. Please IRC next time. Kind of hinting, you know what? You should pay for the postage of the card we just sent you, okay? So next time you should pay for the postage if you want to have another QSL card. That was an interesting one. Real Harm Uplift says the harmful interference specs are very generous. Yeah, and you know what? I just saw something. Cool AM Radio is actually talking about it. Are you using batteries on your radio? Very important. On the Texan PL600, there are a lot of portable radios. If you use a wall wart to power it instead of batteries, there's a lot of the noise from your electrical system that gets into the radio. Make sure you're on the battery. Roughest News says this show and the Facebook channel is great knowledge from a lot of great people. Absolutely. Absolutely. Rufus Newt 9996 is better than CHU. Joe Brown, nice to have you here listening to me on 9630 upper sideband. It's kind of cool. Dr. Sisop picking up AM Skip 1665 from some island in Atlantic, just identified saying 1665. To fine tune as it was 9 kilohertz tuning. That's interesting. 1665. Huh. Jevin Milligan. Hey, Joe, just switched accounts. You're coming in S5, S6, sounding pretty strong on 9630 upper sideband on the Massachusetts Boston SDR. So reports of 9630 upper sideband have to go to sickoradio@gmail.com. sickoradio@gmail.com. Let me try that out again here, just out of curiosity. I am hearing something, but it's not very strong. That's kind of nice. So there's some weird guy apparently on the 9630 kilohertz shortwave band. This is cool. Well, whoever you are, thank you for relaying the shortwave show. And now's the time I'm getting naked. Yeah, because it's getting warm in here. So don't worry, I'm not getting naked. I'm kind of getting hot, and I've gotten my really nice, Paul the Cat shirt. And for those that want to see Paul the Cat, by the way, here he is, Paul the Cat, grooming himself. Hey, Paul. Of course, he totally ignores me. So here's Mr. Paul saying hello to everybody. Well, I guess. Hey, Paul. Hey, look at that. It looks like, oh no, he caught me on camera. Really looks like, he caught me on camera. And of course, for those that have not seen my shirt, It says, for the radio geeks, best friends for life, Jill and Paul. So this is a gift, by the way, from one of the viewers. So it's kind of really cool. So what else do we have? What else do we have? Joe Sombra Nuance, nothing on 9630. Bobby, it's 9630, not 6930. Apparently. Kind of cool. And what else do we have? Keegan says, if necessary, WWCR should consider replacing Alex Jones with Joe. Yeah, absolutely. So the other day I was actually looking at the MLA-30 on my balcony. It was actually sucking out the waves of the air, and I could actually see it. That's why you got to wear that tinfoil hat, or else you're going to be screwed. The MLA-30, really the best. Sucks the waves. Sorry, guys. That was the Alex Jones moment of the night. What else do we have? So everybody's saying hello to Paul. Dr. Sissoff, 471 kilohertz long wave, some tones. It could be a directional beacon, non-directional beacon. Jasmine says, I'd love Jill on WWCR. I'd actually listen to that station if he was on it. Oh, this is nice. Checking the HF Underground postings here. Thank you, Cool AM Radio. So, we have Big Badfish Al that has reported the relay of the live official shortwave channel of YouTube on 9630. We have Treehouse SWL, not receivable out west, past northern Utah. Kind of cool. Kind of cool to see. So people are reporting my voice being rebroadcast on shortwave thanks to a generous soul that is a pirate. God save the pirates. What would we do without pirate stations, honestly? Yeah, honestly. What would we do without pirates? So you're listening, if you're wondering, listening on 9630, because by accident you saw the little trace on your SDR or something. 9630 is this is the official SWL channel. No, I am in no way associated with that pirate, but he's a good man. Maybe women. We don't know. There could be women pirates also. We don't know that. Well, I know one, but that's another story. So, you're listening to the official SWL channel on YouTube. We're doing a live show. We are live twice a week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours UTC. On Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC. We're not always rebroadcast on shortwave, but we are sometimes. So thank you so much. So everybody is happy to see Paul the Cat. Roughest Newt says, how come my MLA-30 sucks more airwaves than mine? If I get multiples, do I suck more? Somebody told me the other day that if you put 50 MLA-30s in a circle, you will suck all the airwaves and nobody's going to get shortwave reception anywhere else. So got to be careful using one of those. Oh, God. Real Art Uplifts, Universal Postage Union website, list of countries selling international reply coupons, none. No, today it's I don't even know if I would go to the post office here if they know what that is. And even back, the stories of IRCs is fun because everybody that needed to have international reply coupons all went through the same thing back then. I still remember The first time I needed IRCs, I had no idea what they were. And I go up to the post office. I ask the guy there for IRCs. He looks at me like, what? International reply coupons? We don't have that. And there's an old guy in the back that hears the conversation and says, yeah, it's in the little red book there. So the guy takes the red book and says, look, it's those yellow coupons, and you got to stamp them to make sure that they're good. So the guy says, oh, okay. So, it's one of those things I probably didn't really buy much. But I needed more international reply coupons maybe a year and a half later. And I went to the post office, and of course, it was not the same guys. I tell the guys I need international reply coupons. He looks at me and says, what's that? Oh, they're in the little red book there, and they're yellow coupons, and you got to stamp them for them to be okay. He looks at me, looks at the book, goes in the book, sees the yellow coupons. He puts them up, and I said, you got to stamp them. He says, you think so? Yeah, they're not worth anything unless they have the post office stamp on them. That proves that I paid for the coupons and they're worth something. So, I was 16 years old at the time. I was like, yeah, I could work here now. I know what IRCs are more than you guys. Shady Pyro 99.55 with the Havana Jammer trying to, 99.55 here. 9 out of 10 times I try 99.55, all I hear is jamming. But tonight, I actually hear WRMI real good. In Spanish. 99.55, wow. WRMI is really good tonight on 99.55. Kind of interesting. Keegan says nothing on 96.30, unfortunately. Shitty Pyro, I'll probably switch to SDR Massachusetts, see if I can get 96.30 upper sideband. Gordon Lyle says his cat Elvis looks at me sometimes as if he's saying, what is this idiot doing now? Just go away, I'm busy. It's you know what? What's the funny part? Paul is very, very. He's like one of the cuddliest cats you could have. He constantly comes at me and it's like meows because he wants to be petted, or he comes on my knees or whatever on my. So the funniest thing is sometimes I talk to him because we all talk to our pets like they are humans, of course. And I talk to Paul, and he looks at me. And I swear that when he looks at me sometimes, he looks like a cat that is trying to understand what I'm trying to say. Because the way that he looks at me is like, yeah, you're really, really trying. You'd like to understand my language, eh? Jevin Milligan, reception report. sickoradio@gmail.com, I believe it was, right? sickoradio@gmail.com. Matt, by the way, folks, this is a music show on 5850 right now. Let's try the frequency if it's coming good. Yeah, pretty good. And by the way, they're sending a lot of that guy sends out pictures regularly. So it's you could check out the it's Slow Scan TV they're sending out, Matt. Maybe I should put myself in MMSS TV and check out for Slow Scan TV pictures. Now, it takes a lot of my voice to do Alex Jones. I could see that it's not a natural thing for me to do Alex Jones. One day, Alex Jones is going to call me and say, hey, can you replace me for a week? I'll have a nice paycheck. Oh, those riots. Yeah. Let's not go there. What else do we have? Kamegzi 1976. I only heard 9630 for a second, but all I heard was Alex Jones. Yes, Sheldon, I actually did a video on the YouTube channel for those that are using SDR.hu. Andrus is the name of the guy. He actually did that as a project, so he decided to stop his project. So if any of you want to tune in SDRs, go to kiwisdr.com/public. So this is the link of a alternate site for Kiwi SDRs. It is where you will get Kiwi SDRs online now. SDR.hu is unfortunately gone. Oh, MFSK64, thanks, Matt. I wasn't sure. That's why I asked. So MFSK64 pictures are being sent out. And just a second, guys, I will let Paul the cat go out of the office. So here we go. Okay. So MFSK64, you can use FLDG software to decode the images. Thanks, Matt, for the info. So yeah, Sheldon, you got to use kiwisdr.com/public now to go to the SDRs. I have no choice. It's a little sad because SDR.hu had kind of a bigger choice, I think. But yep. 6754 USB Trenton military weather. Let's try it out here. 6754 has been coming in. This is another one of my summer things. I don't usually hear it in the winter. But yeah, it's pretty good here. 6754. 6754 upper sideband. Trenton, Ontario, Canada. Military broadcast. It's actually not exactly from Trenton. The transmitter is in a city out of a little further west, I believe, of the of Trenton. Matt says it would be funny if Alex Jones fans thought they found a new InfoWars frequency for a minute. That would be nice. Want to start a revolution? Get yourself a shortwave radio. Okay, enough Alex Jones for tonight. Jasmine is picking up 9630 up very faintly, just above the noise. Gordon Lyle, the new Texan receivers are delayed. Yes. And at least to the end of the year, but possibly 2021. Absolutely. And all has to do with, of course, the supply chain and the production of the receivers. Matt is using the ICOM IC 7100 tonight. Matt says MFSK party is usually around 0245 to 0250. So get yourself FLDG, put it on MFSK 64, and you should get pictures, which is always fun. Sorry. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yep, 1.4 is not. It's a release candidate. It's not a. And actually, when I got the email from SDR Play, they kind of told me it was wise to not install 1.4 right away. So that is, I would say that's an acknowledgement that it's not totally ready yet. Maybe it's better to wait. And I will not install it right away because I want to do a few videos beginner videos. I probably, for those that are using SDR Uno, tomorrow will probably be the first videos in my series of SDR Uno for beginners. So anybody using the SDR, I think this is going to be interesting to you all, because I know that there's a lot of questions. I see that there's a lot of very basic questions people are asking over and over again. So I think it's time that I post those videos. And tomorrow I have some time, so there's a good chance that tomorrow will be the time I'm going to post those SDR Uno videos. So hope that you guys enjoy that. And as time goes by, I thought of doing different playlists. I don't know what you guys think. I'll give you a little sum up here. Would you guys like me to create like SDR Uno beginner and SDR Uno advanced, two different lists? So like that, the beginners are always in the beginner list and the advanced is in the advanced list all the time. Because I thought that would be the better of both. So like that, all the beginners would be at really just, SDR Uno for beginners. And when you get more, or if you are more advanced, then you could go to SDR Uno Advanced for other types of videos that are more complex to do. And I will also start SDR Console V3 videos. A lot of you are using that, and I think that a lot of people would probably enjoy having. I would do the same things. I would be doing a SDR Console V3 beginner and SDR Console V3 advanced, so that and honestly, I'll be learning at the same time on some of the stuff. I've been reading a lot of the documentations. I want to thank SDR Play, by the way, because they've been sending me links of documents, and last time we were talking about spurious signals and everything. So it's kind of cool because they watch the live shows, they watch the information I post on the channel, and they send me documentations about different things. Sometimes when I talk about SDR Play, RSP devices, and so on. So I want to thank them because they're very helpful in helping me also personally understand some of the stuff. I mean, the SDR Uno software has some very complex features and very advanced features when you start looking at it. And so I think all of that will be good to have together, but it's it's a lot of stuff to do. And with all what I do in a week, taking the time to do these videos, and I'm going to try to do them in a good way that they are understandable and easy to use for everybody. Be it that you're advanced or you are a beginner, for sure. Rufus says, I'm going to be starting SDR for beginners. Would be good for me. Shady Power 90 heard Comox. No report received. That's the air base. I live just a few minutes drive from the base. Oh, cool. Gordon Lyle says playlist is a good idea. Bobby Burgess says, once you get into SDRs, you won't regret your decisions. Keegan, I'm considering setting up an SDR here to go online. That's cool. I still do think that SDRs are not for everyone. There are people that like a good old big radio with knobs, and that's it, and they don't want to deal with a computer. You got to understand that we have to deal with a computer when we deal with an SDR. So that's important to understand, that not everybody is happy to use a computer for doing radio. But those that do, I totally agree that software-defined receivers pretty much change our lives. it is so cool to have that different way of not just listening to shortwave and radio, but also viewing, because that's the aspect that is the most important of an SDR. We visualize, we see the radio signals. Every time, like there was one that just went through. Every time I see these Iona sounds go through the band, and you see that little line move and move, it's like, wow, this is so cool. Sometimes I chase one. From time to time, I'm chasing some, so it's pretty cool. By the way, SDR console had an update. I'm going to have to check that. Tom DXer got an RSPDX, so beginning Uno will be good. Cool. Rufus News, I have RSP1A staring with me in the face, so you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Shitty Power 90 is getting 754 upper sideband buried underneath the noise on the Victoria BC receiver. Jasmine never knew shortwave without an SDR. That's an interesting aspect too. Think about it. Newcomers to the hobby getting into shortwave with a SDR receiver and never knowing, because there are some out there that will never have known what it is to listen to shortwave on a standard radio. Kind of interesting. Keegan could check on my AM transmitter FCC Part 15 station signal when I'm away from home. Well, that'd be cool. Yes, absolutely. That would be an idea. You leave it on 24 hours, Keegan? Out of curiosity? Yes, FLDG is updated, by the way, and I had to update mine because I listened to the shortwave radiogram, and basically the sorry, I got a little distracted. Same guy texting me again. He's intense when he texts sometimes. Okay, so we're talking about SDR. So people that are just SDR only. I forgot what I was talking about. What else? Oh, the FCC transmitter, FLDG. That's where it was. So I was I wanted to decode the shortwave radiogram this weekend. I hadn't done that in such a long time, and noticed that I was missing tons of modes. It's important to update FLDG and multi-PSK. They add modes all the time in the software, by the way. So it's important to update both. So FLDG is at 4.1.13. And of course, multi-PSK, I don't know what version they are now, but make sure you always have the latest versions. There's new digital modes all the time. Same thing for WSJTX. Those doing FT4, FT8, Whisper, whatever. There are always some improvements and new modes popping up all the time. Make sure you always update the software. Gordon Lyle says, I think a good tabletop, a good quality portable, and a good quality SDR is great. That way you have all the bases covered. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Old Radio Man just got the RSPDX and have the Teammate TM2 tuner knob coming tomorrow. Anything beginner or advanced would be welcome. Cool. I'm going to start that tomorrow. Keegan says, my AM station is on 670 at 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 9:10 a.m. at 6 p.m. to 11. Is there a reason, just out of curiosity, I'm curious, Keegan, is there a curiosity or a reason why you leave it on all the time? So when you're away, maybe because somebody could be listening in or receiving it? Do you have a reason behind it? I'm just curious. Others other crafters, biggest hesitancy I have with SDR is that I'm on the computer for over 40 hours a week. Radio is an escape. Yeah, I understand that, and I think that reaches a certain amount of people. And it also, it's interesting because computers are I am on the computer all the time. So, my routine is simple. I wake up, make coffee, I get on the computer, and I start my day looking at what I'm going to do as videos in the day, looking at the tech news, reading articles everywhere. And then, these live shows, I'm on the computer all the time. So you're 40 hours a week on the computer. I'm twice that. I am on a computer. Apart from, like, today I went out for groceries, stuff like that. So I was out for maybe 2 hours, but remove the 2 hours, remove maybe an hour for lunch, 3 hours. I came on the computer at around 9:30 a.m. and I'll be on the computer until about 1 a.m. tonight, minus 3 hours. And personally, it doesn't bother me. When I was doing tech guy duties, I noticed one thing, because sometimes people would want to do stuff, and I would tell them, well, you can do this with a computer, you can do that with a computer. And I would often hear that phrase, oh, well, I work 40 hours a week with a computer. When I'm at home, I want to be doing something else than the computer. And I know that there's a subset of people that's what they want to do. They want to be out of the computer. And so an SDR might be a problem for sure. Sean Harvey is hearing 1710 AM mode travelers information station WQFG 689 in Hudson County, New Jersey. So what SDR are you using? An SDR near that area, I guess? Or is it an SDR in Hudson County, New Jersey? And like Bobby says, there's a lot of the radios today that are software-defined receivers in a big box. An example is ICOM ICR 8600. The ICOM ICR 8600 is a software-defined radio. It's just that it's made in a tabletop format with buttons and knobs, so that it doesn't look like a computer. But in reality, it's a computer. It's a whole computer, and it's a software-defined radio. Keegan says, I could call my broadcast radio Keegan. Oh yeah, you should have these automatic IDs every 30 minutes or every 15 minutes. You're listening to Radio Keegan. That would be good. That would be really good, actually. Jean-Marc Letts says, heard on 20 SDR 0225, 549 kilohertz, Gel FM Algeria with ID in French. First time logged by chance. Wow, pretty cool. Hey, Shelly, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. Matt says, I find SDRs invaluable for things like pirate hunting and recording stations that are on when I'm sleeping. It's a great way to expand your ability to DX or shortwave. Absolutely. John Doe, is there an SDR player that can decode all the digital modes? No, you have. Well, look. So for shortwave digital modes, you have to have third-party software. So you need software, and you need, like FLDG or multi-PSK or stuff like that. For the VHF, UHF side of things, there's plugins that exist for P25 and stuff like that. But just tell yourself about one thing. The licensed SDR digital modes, the licensed digital modes that you could have on the VHF, UHF range, the ones that are unavailable to a standard scanner will be unavailable to an SDR. So you can decode digital stuff, you can decode P25 and so on, but you will not be able to decode digital encrypted stuff that a standard scanner cannot decode. Plus, there's all sorts of rules today. Here in Canada, for example, if you are listening to a digital signal that is encrypted and not meant for you, it's illegal to actually decode it. You're not allowed. Sorry, guys. My Alex Jones is getting into my voice. So, Jasmine, I was born on the internet with a phone attached to my head. I am on a computer all the time, but I don't really think about it. Yeah, I think it's a question of being used to it or something. pretty much. Keegan, my broadcast schedule for is programs from NPR station, news, classical, and jazz, and CKUT with the International Radio Report. So if one day, Sheldon, we hear of somebody in Northwest Arkansas that says he's heard the International Radio Report on the AM band, we'll know that it's because of Keegan and his Part 15 station. Oh, man. No, I understand you're not hearing it at home, Sheldon, but I was wondering if you'd hear it. You could hear it from an SDR close, but not necessarily in New Jersey coming in. New Jersey is the only station in North America on that frequency. Oh, really? So there's nothing else in 1710 except that one. Wow. Rufus Newt finally off on weekends, so CKUT on Sunday morning. Jasmine, how would they ever know you decoded the signal? Oh no, the radio police are here. It's look. The thing is, it's not question of they knowing. They would not know if you're a wizard and a geek and you're able to find that algorithm that makes you decode. Nobody will ever know if you don't tell anyone. What I'm just saying is that because it's illegal, well, companies or people creating software will not do that decoding or that encryption decode mode because they don't want to be, they don't want to have somebody, showing up at the door saying, you're the one that is putting that software on the internet that decodes stuff, So nobody does it because I know that some of the algorithms for the encrypted signals is known, but nobody goes there because nobody really wants to take the chance, basically. It's as simple as that. Nobody's going to take the chance to give a software that decodes something that is illegal. John Doe, why do I need SDR software when we got all these players on the internet? That's a fair question. You know what? It's a question that it's a personal question, that one. You know why? No, that's not what he's saying, Matt. He's not saying that SDR is not a radio. I kind of get the drift of his question, actually. His question is more, why should I invest in a software-defined receiver when I go online on one of those Kiwi SDRs and get all of the signals you talk about? So I don't need to spend money to buy one. And that's my drift of his question. I guess. So what he's saying is because of that, radios in the home could be vanishing. So you know what, John Doe? Here's the thing. So, I hear all the time about people telling me that shortwave is dead because of the internet and stuff. And I always come back and say, no, shortwave is not dead because of the internet. Actually, the internet complements shortwave. That's why you guys are all here. I mean, if the internet killed shortwave, I'd be talking to myself today. Obviously, there's a bunch of guys here that are watching me because that's not the case. That means there's a lot of you listening to radios. So that's the first part. And in that first part, what you hear on shortwave is not available on the internet for the most part. A lot of people have been telling me it's like, well, they left shortwave because they went on the web. No, Radio Netherlands is not on the web. Most shortwave broadcasters just vanished. They haven't done a web presence, you know? And there's a little subset of shortwave broadcasters that when they left, they did go on the internet. But no, it's not. It's a very small percentage. So when somebody tells me, well, everything is on the internet, no, it's not. I don't see on the internet any broadcast that sounds or looks like the shortwave broadcasts I was hearing. All I hear is local stations in languages I don't understand of all local countries around the world. Yeah, I can listen to Hungarian on the internet. Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand a thing they're saying. They're in the local language, Hungarian. Yeah, I'll listen to Finland in Finnish. I don't care. It could be finished and I don't know. That's the thing is people think it's replacing, and it's not. It's not, because I have no English language Radio Finland on the internet, and I have no language Radio Norway on the internet. I have no Radio Bulgaria on the internet in English. I have stations from their countries that are in languages I don't understand, which is not cool, because when you don't understand a thing, I don't know why I'm listening. And that's where I see how limited the knowledge of these people is, because they think well, everything's on the internet. No, it's not. That's for the first part. Now, your question, which is more detailed, of why should I invest in a radio when I could tune these receivers online, and even worse, some of them are so sensitive and so amazing in their reception that why should I get $100 radio hooked up to my PC, fiddle for hours with an antenna that might not work well, and then get an MLA 30 or whatever, and I don't even know what I'm doing? And you know what? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's a question of not being the same thing. I am amazed at the receivers that are online. I often go to SDRs that are in different countries to see what I hear in different parts of the world, and mostly to see or to hear what I cannot receive over here. But that said, you would understand what we mean and what we do if you sit down, put up an SDR Play RSP1A, an MLA 30 antenna, and the first thing that I talk about in the live show is like, oh, this is from, this is a number, like for last Friday, this is a number station from Moscow, Russia. You tune the frequency and you hear it. Well, now you're hearing it at your home with your antenna and your radio. There's a sense of achievement. It's like going fishing. Yeah, you can look at other guys fishing and see what kind of fish they got and say, oh, look at that. Pretty cool. But you could be fishing and you would get that fish. And it's like, oh man, look at that. I got that special catch. It's the same thing with radio. Does this answer please kind of, make you understand a little more? What else do we have? Keegan heard Radio Kansas Station 89.5 and KHCC Hutchison, Kansas. Pretty cool. Via Tropo. Sean, though, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying a physical radio in your home might be vanished by the internet players. It's a different thing to think about radio vanishing, because there's another aspect to radio, John Doe, that we got to talk about, okay? And it's the fact that as long as nothing bad's happening, the internet is a pretty stable thing. Yes, there's a little bit of, we see it right now with what's happening. There's sometimes a little bit of censorship from this or that. But overall, it's a pretty open thing in general in North America, because we can't apply that rule to every country around the world. Just look at China, where YouTube is not available. They have their own YouTube. Remember one thing: when things go bad, look how complicated things are right now, and let's not go into details, but what's happening in the United States, plus the COVID-19 thing. We're living in, this week is one of the most complex weeks of our own existence, of what's happening everywhere. It's not a war, but it's a complex mix of things that put together makes it even more complicated, and that pushes us towards some people saying, well, maybe that network shouldn't exist. Maybe that network should not censor. That network is not right in saying those things. And we're mixing up a lot of different approaches of what free speech could be all about. What is different with radio, and especially shortwave radio, because local radio has the same flaw as internet. If the internet is censored, local AM FM radio stations in your area are censored also. It all goes together. Local media is censored. In the case where the internet is censored, your local AM FM stations are censored, but shortwave radio is not, because you hear the voices of stations from other countries that aren't abiding by the same rules as your own country. So I get the drift of what you're saying, but we have to remember that in times of very complex situations, radio, and shortwave radio in particular, is maybe the only thing that is a good thing to really know what's happening. And we see it around the world. Stations broadcasting to Asia and Africa are giving news to countries and to communities that don't have real news, that their own governments are blocking the real and what's happening for real. The truth is not getting there. And there's a lot of countries around the world. We are privileged. Even though we are on the edge, there are some very I'm searching for a word here. Although we are sometimes on a very thin line of truth versus fake versus censorship versus we still enjoy a certain normality and a certain freedom. Okay, we're not I could say bad things here on the microphone that I want, but that would be allowed, although there's a limit on YouTube with what you're going to say. I have to censor myself in when I do these live shows. As an example, YouTube has a lot of rules. When I do live shows, I have to abide by a big bunch of rules of what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to avoid talking about. So there's some form of censorship in essence. Radio does not abide by these rules when they're shortwave and from another country. I could go on the air in another country and say things that I can't say here. Even worse, I could go on the air in my own country of Canada and say things on the air that I cannot say in this microphone on YouTube. it's an example of why radio. I understand that you might think it might be going away because of that, but no, because these things are going to be blocked as soon as something bad happens. You know, I can't believe that. Don VE6JY heard 1710 in New Jersey several times in central Alberta with his antenna farm in zero noise. But yes, Jasmine, obvious hackers could do it. Absolutely. And there are some that do it. Honestly, there are some that do it. I seen a demonstration of a lot of equipment to being able to listen in on phone calls from cell phones today, which are encrypted. So it gives you an idea. Hobbyists and hackers for the fun of it, absolutely. What else? The other way. Let's go down. Yep, a lot of SDRs online have a timeout. A lot of them are 1 hour. Absolutely. So, it's a complex thing. It's a complex thing. So but it's a very interesting discussion because that's where we see freedom of speech. Where is freedom of speech, and where does it stand, and where is it in all of the scheme of everything happening? It's a big discussion here. Tom DXer, take it easy, my friend. Hope that you enjoyed the show. And yep, SDR no videos are coming. Stay safe, you too. Have a good night. Rufus Newt, I like tuning. That is why I have been hesitant on SDR. Oh, but you tune on an SDR, but you tune differently. On a radio, you tune around, but once you see the SDR will have you tune to signals that you see that you would have missed on the regular radio. It's still tuning, Rufus. It's tuning in a different way. And you still have that other radio if you want to do it in a good old way, It's like that. Matt says, for me, the big selling point of SDR was to get the capillaries of an expensive desktop rig at an affordable price. I gotta say that they are so amazing today that for a really, really low price, you get a lot, for sure. Oh, it's this day, really? So we are UTC June 4th. Tiananmen Square happened on this day in 1989. Wow. 1989. So that's 31 years ago. Right? Yeah, 31 years ago. I still remember looking at the TV, being amazed to see what we would see. And that most of the Chinese and of the young Chinese today don't even know that ever happened. Have no idea. Crazy. Shady Pyro 90. Looks like Chicago Police Department citywide 6 scanner feed is taken down due to hackers jamming in the radio. Kimberly, K6YY Hell. Nice to have you on board from California. Jasmine also found other countries cover events in the U.S. in a less biased, more adaptive way. That's another thing. We got to be careful. Our own local media isn't necessarily reporting it in the right way. One thing that I always told everybody when we were talking about news, because you always have a variety of people talking about what the truth is all about. Okay, truth is different for everybody. I'm the guy that's in the middle. what I mean by that is I look at the news, but I am not going to abide 100% by necessarily what they said or the way they said it. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, so I'm not into conspiracy stuff at all. I don't believe in that. So you have all that spectrum of people. Nothing like Shortwave to have somebody from another country talk about an event that happened in your own country and their way of seeing the things happening to make you reflect upon, okay, they're reporting it like that. So what I was about to say is I've seen so many mistakes in news reporting of some of the subjects I know really, really well, that when people talk about the news, I say, you know what? I've seen mistakes in some of the stuff that I know so well that are so appalling that I'm extremely careful. Because I think if they are wrong there, but nobody said anything because it's something very specific, they could be wrong in reporting that too. Jasmine says, at the end of the day, YouTube is a private company which can do whatever they want. It's ironic to hear the same people who were against FCC's fairness doctrine crying about censorship on YouTube. You know, I like what I'm going to say with YouTube censorship, is I understand that it's a network that you got to control what's on it. And imagine you're running YouTube. You can't have every idiot in the world run stuff that is crazy. You need to control it. You need to have censorship of your own network. YouTube does it. I personally don't have too much of a hard time with YouTube. Abide by the rules, and it's still relatively fair play. I mean, I can still talk about a lot of stuff as long as you just don't go through heavy in it. Where I am more careful on my side of things is because, so this year there's a new way of selecting what ads could be on your network. So when you do live shows, when you do YouTube videos, they now have a chart that you have to go through, and that chart is your video, does your video talk about this, that, or whatever? Is it for children? Is it for, you got to go through that list, go down and put a check mark to say, no, I don't talk about any of that. And then it goes through and it tells you, okay, you're everybody can have ads on your channel without fear. Censorship on YouTube has gone through a phase where it is more about ad revenue. I know some of you are using, ad blockers and stuff like that. And I can understand when you go to some websites why some people use ad blockers. But remember one thing, people like me, I haven't asked for donations in a long time. You guys noticed. Well, there's a reason for that. Monetization on YouTube has been decent. But that also means that for monetization on YouTube, to give me a paycheck that is decent, well, somebody somewhere has got to watch an ad, And I'm not telling anybody to watch ads because you're not allowed to say that. But what I mean by that is when you're using an ad blocker on content that you like, and that's the key question here that I always say. When you like content of something, a website that you go to all the time that you love, YouTube video or YouTube channel you love all the time, you can actually go in those ad blockers and say, you know what, on that website, leave the ads. On that YouTube channel, you can let play the ads. Why? Because think about it as your way of paying the content creator for all the work that he does. I mean, look at that. I've been talking for 3 hours and 10 minutes tonight. I mean, I might not be here doing this if it wasn't for a decent paycheck behind all of that content. My paycheck doesn't come honestly from the YouTube channel of Shortwave much. It's a very small portion of all that I do. My tech channels are the ones that are paying really, interesting. They're giving me a nice paycheck. But it's just a question of, remember that there's somebody at the other side that took the time to do content, post an article that you love, do videos, and it's just a question of, remember that those ads are my paycheck. I'm not against ad blockers. I think we just need an education with ad blockers, because there are websites that I go to that I look, and it's so annoying with all the ads that you're like, oh man, come on. And these are the ones that are actually the problem. These are the ones that made somebody decide one day, hey, I'm going to put an ad blocker because I'm tired of that. Much more than whatever YouTube 6-second ads and stuff like that. It's a question of just understanding that, yeah, you can have an ad blocker, but think about the creators and use that little list of websites and channels that you can actually let the ads go through because you like them. That's more where I'm thinking about stuff than ad blockers themselves. Jam Diversified. Radio Romania just started on 11.825. Listening in Melbourne, Australia. Cool. Welcome aboard, my friend. In North America, what's the frequency in North America for this time of night? So let's check it out here. So it's 11 p.m. locally. 7275 is Voice of Turkey. You guys are receiving radio, the Voice of Turkey. It's not very strong here. I don't know if you guys on the West Coast, I think it's either Europe or West Coast thing. 7275 is Voice of Turkey. And I don't know if there's a... let me check out here. Let's check Romania. Isn't Romania on also for North America? 6145. So Radio Havana, Cuba on 6145 is what I'm hearing. Romania. Radio Romania. It's 0530. Okay. Just looking here at what 01. Okay. 04 to 05 in Romanian. Huh. I thought they had one at 04. Yeah, it's 05 that they have English here towards this part of the world. Huh, interesting. 03 to 04. Here we are. 03 to 04, 7375. So 7275 is Turkey. 7375. Yeah, I'm hearing it. About S9. Voice of Turkey in English. 7375. Right now. What else do we have? Take care, Matt. It was nice to have you on board. See you Friday, maybe. Hey, Mongoose. Glenn Lyle's got 9850. Let's try it out, 9850 here. Oh, and that one's good. 98.50, 73.75 also. Take care, Cool AM Radio. Always nice to have you on board. ChemXZ76 Renew New Zealand International seems to be coming in stronger and stronger now. Yep, absolutely. Let me check it out here. New Zealand. An amazing signal here. Radio New Zealand, 13,840. Amazing signal. Love it. Kimberly says, my husband and I have been married 30 years as of yesterday. Congratulations. This is cool. That is cool. Mongoose says it's more fun to be a conspiracy theorist. What else do we have? Shelly says yours is one of the only 3 channels where I watch the ads through, so you get credit. Thank you so much. Oh. Sheldon, send me the clip. Oh, the famous clip. Oh, man. Yeah, that guy probably disappeared forever.
Hill in upstate New York, I was working the overnight shift at an AM news talk radio station.
So
many people, I had spent the past few weeks following the protest in China's Beijing in 1989.
Look at that, guys. I'm going to play it with my phone. You guys should probably hear it okay. We'll just do this. And thanks, Sheldon. Have a great night, Brent. It was nice to have you on board. Jasmine just picked up HF air traffic from South Atlantic on 6535. Cool. Cool. Take care. Shady Pyro. Turkey is 7275, Bobby Burgess. 7275. Padrino, the antenna I would recommend would be an MLA30. MLA30. It's around 45 US dollars, and it's a loop, an amplified magnetic loop, and it's pretty good. So here's a little something that Sheldon sent in. It's a broadcast from Tiananmen Square. And what happened. So here's the, I don't know if you guys, hope that you guys going to hear it well.
On the top of a windswept hill in upstate New York, I was working the overnight shift at an AM news talk radio station. Like many people, I had spent the past few weeks following the protest in China's Tiananmen Square in Beijing. It was a typically uneventful night, so I was spending my idle hours adjusting the reception of the station's satellite dishes to bring in news feeds from the various networks around the world. Then I started to pick up this broadcast.
This is Radio Beijing. Please remember June the 3rd, 1989. A most tragic event happened in the Chinese capital, Beijing. Thousands of people, most of them innocent civilians, are killed by fully armed soldiers when they force their way into the city. Among the killed are our colleagues at Radio Beijing.
On a whim, I recorded the broadcast and brought it home. For the next decade, the tape lay forgotten in the back of a closet. Its rediscovery prompted me to ask who was this man who made the broadcast and what became of him. His name went unrecorded, but what is known is this. Without the permission of the Chinese government, the reporter went on the air and gave a graphic description of the violent crackdown on the students, later described as a massacre.
The soldiers were riding on armored vehicles and used machine guns against thousands of local residents and students who tried to block their way. When the army convoys made a breakthrough, soldiers continued to spray their bullets indiscriminately at crowds in the street. Eyewitnesses say some armored vehicles even crushed foot soldiers who hesitated in front of the resisting civilians.
According to reports I read afterwards, the man was arrested immediately following the broadcast. He was also reportedly put on trial and convicted. Rumors circulated that he was executed. However, neither Amnesty International nor the organization Human Rights in China have any substantiating information regarding his eventual fate. One thing we do know is that he did, in fact, disappear after this broadcast, and his eventual fate is unknown. Every now and then I'll listen to this broadcast, consider my own calling as a reporter, and wonder what I would have done in his place.
Radio Beijing English Department deeply mourns those died in a tragic incident and appeals to all its listeners to join our protest for the gross violation of human rights and the most barbarous oppression of the people. Because of the abnormal situation here in Beijing, there is no other news we could bring you. We sincerely ask for your understanding and thank you for joining us at this most tragic moment.
Crazy. Crazy. It's so sad. So sad. Somebody that reported what was happening on China radio or Radio Beijing back then, unfortunately, probably disappeared forever. Crazy. Makes you think, you know. It might be China, but you never know what could happen even in our home countries. Never forget that. Take care, Gordon. It's nice to have you on board. David Bennett, the amplifier, from what I understand, the amplifier that is at the basics of the MLA30 loop is a open source design that is actually available on the internet. If you look for shortwave low noise amplifiers, you will see some designs. And from what I understand, that design is what is used in the MLA30 with a little bit of tweaking. ChemXZ 1976, yep, no way survived. Kimberly, wow, thank you very much for sharing it. I mean, there was a piece of history back then in Radio Beijing. A guy in Radio Beijing actually saying and talking about what happened. Crazy. You know, it's like that guy that was in the street in front of the tank. That's the image I will never forget of Tiananmen Square. Is the tanks lined up in the streets, and that's only that little guy, that guy alone, in front of the tank, refusing, and the tank is trying to, like, you know, swerve because the guys in the tank, the military, they don't want to hurt him. And that guy alone and goes to talk to the guy in the tank. And then you see his friends dragging away real fast. I mean, you know, even that guy, you know, crazy. That's the image I have in my head of that moment that I will never forget. It's for me, the lonesome guy in front of a tank is the image of Tiananmen Square. Talking about that, it's getting late here. It's 11:20 p.m. and we've been on for 3 hours and 20 minutes. It was kind of a fun show tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed the show today. It was fun to be here. We're going to be here on Friday again, so hope that you enjoyed that. This coming Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time. Stay safe. It's always fun to be here. And don't forget, there's a Facebook group with that has the same name as the channel, official SWL channel. Hope that you are staying safe. Hope that everything is going right. And hope everybody enjoyed tonight's show. A mix of all sorts of things tonight. It was fun to talk about all the different aspects of radio and all. So pretty crazy. Take care, my friends. Stay safe. And wherever you are, see you Friday or next week. Fun to be here. Love you all, okay? Bye-bye.